Hash the widow's defiance. I never thought at 58 years old I'd be starting over again. My name is Alina Wilson, and I've lived in Denver, Colorado with my husband for over 30 years. We had a good life here, nestled against the backdrop of the Rocky Mountains, where the air is crisp and the sunsets paint the sky in colors that take your breath away. My husband Thomas and I had built a comfortable life together. He worked at the Rocky Mountain Federal Credit Union while I ran a small bookstore downtown that catered to tourists and locals alike. Our children were grown and living their own lives, so it was just the two of us in our cozy ranch-style home on the outskirts of the city. Thomas was always thinking ahead. 2 months before the unthinkable happened, he surprised me with a brand new silver Honda Accord. It was beautiful with leather seats that warmed up on those cold Colorado mornings and a sunroof that I could open on clear days to feel the mountain air. I had been driving my old Civic for 12 years, and though I protested that it still had life in it, Thomas insisted. "You deserve something reliable, Ellie," he had said, using the nickname only he was allowed to use. He financed it through his credit union, where he'd been a member for decades. They gave him a good rate because of his stellar credit history. My name wasn't on the loan since I wasn't a member of the credit union, but we didn't think anything of it at the time. After all, we'd been married for 35 years. What was his was mine, and vice versa. Life has a way of shattering your expectations when you least expect it. On a Tuesday in October, Thomas complained of heartburn after dinner. By midnight, I was in the emergency room being told my husband had suffered a massive heart attack. By morning, I was a widow. The doctors said it was quick, that he hadn't suffered, but those words were little comfort as I tried to process that the man I had built my life with was suddenly gone. 2 days before Thomas died, he had made the second payment on my new car. In his typical meticulous fashion, he wrote out a check and mailed it to the credit union. I found out later he had accidentally written the check for $5 less than the payment amount. It seemed such a small thing at the time, just a simple oversight in the midst of our normal, busy lives. The day after Thomas died, while I was still making funeral arrangements and calling relatives, the phone rang. I was searching through Thomas's desk for the contact information for his brother in Seattle when my daughter answered it. She handed me the phone with a concerned look. "It's the credit union," she whispered. The voice on the other end was professional but cold. "Mrs. Wilson, we're calling about your husband's loan. The payment received was $5 short. We'll need that additional amount immediately." I was stunned by the call. My husband wasn't even in the ground yet, and they were calling about $5. I managed to explain through my grief that Thomas had just passed away the day before, but I assured them I would send the $5 right away. They thanked me curtly and hung up. The next day, as I sat at my kitchen table surrounded by sympathy cards and casserole dishes dropped off by well-meaning neighbors, the phone rang again. It was the credit union, but this time their tone had changed entirely. "Mrs. Wilson, we're calling about the Honda Accord financed through our institution," the man said without even offering condolences. "Since you are not on the loan agreement and the primary borrower is deceased, we need the vehicle returned immediately." I felt like I'd been slapped. "What do you mean returned? That's my car. Thomas bought it for me." "I understand your confusion, ma'am, but legally the vehicle belongs to the credit union until the loan is paid in full. Since you're not on the loan and not a member of our institution, we cannot transfer the loan to you. The vehicle needs to be returned to us." I tried to reason with them. I explained that I had traded in my old car as part of the down payment. I told them I needed transportation, especially now with all the arrangements I had to make. I even offered to pay off the loan in full as soon as the life insurance came through, but they were unmoved. "I'd like to become a member then," I said, grasping at straws. "Then you can transfer the loan to me." "I'm sorry, Mrs. Wilson, but membership is only open to employees of Rocky Mountain Energy or their immediate family members. Since your husband is no longer an employee, you don't qualify for membership." The conversation ended with them demanding I return the car immediately. I hung up the phone and broke down crying at my kitchen table. It seemed so cruel, so callous. I had just lost my husband, and now they wanted to take away the last thing he had given me. Over the next week, the calls continued. Every day, sometimes twice a day, the credit union would call demanding the return of the car. Each time, their tone grew more insistent, more threatening. They started mentioning repossession and legal action. I tried to explain my situation to anyone who would listen at the credit union, but they all gave me the same answer: return the car or we'll take it. My children were furious on my behalf. My son wanted to hire a lawyer, but I knew that would just be throwing good money after bad. My daughter offered to let me use her second car, but it was an old Jeep that I knew would be hard for me to drive regularly. Meanwhile, the credit union continued their harassment, seemingly oblivious to the fact that I was grieving. One morning, about 10 days after Thomas died, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt since before his death. I was done being pushed around by faceless bureaucrats who couldn't find an ounce of compassion in their hearts. If they wanted the car so badly, fine. They could have it, but I was going to make them work for it. I called my daughter and asked her to come over. I explained my plan to her, and though she was concerned, she agreed to help. We took the Honda Accord and drove to a dealership across town. I wanted to see what my options were for getting a new car quickly. The salesman was sympathetic to my situation when I explained what was happening, but the numbers weren't working out. The trade-in value they were offering for the Honda wouldn't cover a down payment on anything comparable. That's when my daughter suggested we look further afield. "The credit union is making your life difficult," she said. "Why not return the favor?" We went home, and I spent that evening researching dealerships across Colorado. I found one in Grand Junction, about 6 hours away on the other side of the mountains, that had the exact same model Honda Accord in the same color. I called them first thing in the morning and explained that I needed to purchase the car that day and that I would be coming with cash for a down payment and excellent credit for financing. My daughter and her husband agreed to drive me to Grand Junction. We left Denver early in the morning, the three of us in the Honda that the credit union was so desperate to get back. The drive through the mountains was beautiful, with the aspens just beginning to turn golden. Under different circumstances, it would have been a delightful road trip. We arrived at the dealership in Grand Junction by early afternoon. The salesman was waiting for me, having prepared all the paperwork in advance based on our phone conversation. Within 2 hours, I had been approved for financing through their partner bank, signed all the necessary paperwork, and was handed the keys to my new Honda Accord, identical in every way to the one Thomas had bought me, except this one was legally mine alone. My son-in-law drove my new car back to Denver, while my daughter and I took the original Honda to our final destination. We drove to an abandoned lot behind a strip mall on the outskirts of Grand Junction, a place the salesman had suggested when I asked where I might temporarily park the other Honda. It was getting dark as we pulled into the deserted lot. I took one last look at the car Thomas had bought for me, ran my hand over the dashboard, and then took everything personal out of it. "Are you sure about this, Mom?" my daughter asked as I locked the car one final time. I nodded, feeling a strange mix of sadness and vindication. They want their car, they can come get it. I took the keys and tossed them into a nearby dumpster. My daughter and I then got into her car, which she had parked nearby earlier, and began the long drive back to Denver. The next morning, right on schedule, the credit union called. I had been waiting for their call, sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee, feeling more in control than I had in weeks. "Mrs. Wilson, this is Brandon from Rocky Mountain Federal Credit Union. We're calling about the Honda Accord. We need you to bring it in today or we'll be forced to take further action." I took a deep breath. "You want the car? It's in Grand Junction.